Jake Lacy, the creator of All Her Fault, discusses why Peter is the show's central antagonist. Spoiler alert, this post contains spoilers for all 8 episodes of All Her Fault, now streaming on Peacock. In the final moments of Peacock's intricate limited series, All Her Fault, Peter Irvine meets his end, believing himself to be the hero of his family. Across 8 episodes, the series, created by Megan Gallagher, based on the 2021 novel by Andrea Mara, slowly contradicts its title by absolving the women at its center for the perceived failings of their families, which they often bear no matter who is actually at fault. Marissa, Sarah Snook, is accused of negligent parenting when her son Milo is kidnapped during a play date she casually scheduled over text. Jenny, Dakota Fanning, is charged with letting her job cloud her judgment by failing to properly screen Carrie, Sophia Lillis, the nanny who used her family to get close to Milo. Carrie, meanwhile, is villainized for her deluded quest to reunite with her biological son in a world that has dismissed them. But their stories are deeper than the aspersions cast upon them. The blame for the botched kidnapping plot, the shocking revelation of a long-held family secret, and a soapy baby swap all landed on Peter, Jake Lacy, who was the linchpin in it all. By the season's end, more than a few travesties are laid at Peter's feet. First, it's revealed that the whole kidnapping was rooted in a car crash 5 years earlier, when Peter and Marissa brought their newborn son home. Peter was driving when their car collided with the one carrying Carrie and her newborn. The Irvine's son died in the crash, and Peter used the cover of a desolate street in Chicago to switch his body for Carrie's healthy son while the women lay unconscious. Years later, Carrie figured out what had happened and kidnapped Milo, hoping to force Peter and Marissa to reveal the truth and get her son back. But through a series of unfortunate events, Carrie's plan unraveled due to her unpredictable father, whom Peter killed during a failed ransom drop, and then staged the miraculous return of Milo. This happens while Peter has been at home playing the role of a concerned but aloof husband. Further complicating matters are the family secrets exposed by Milo's disappearance, which put Peter and his siblings, Brian, Daniel Monks, and Leah, Abby Elliott, under strain. Just as Peter is trying to conceal his shared history with Carrie, Brian and Leah realize that the original sin of their family, when Brian was injured and permanently disabled as a child, was not Leah's fault, as Peter had always led them believe. Peter was the one who accidentally hurt his brother, setting up a lifelong lie that led to Leah's drug addiction, Brian's struggle to live independently, and Peter's needy and controlling behavior, which has turned murderous. When the dust settles, Peter has killed Carrie in front of Marissa to silence her, and their family friend Colin, Jay Ellis, who was secretly sleeping with Leah, has also been shot and killed. Peter is left to continue gaslighting his family into thinking he is the good guy for spilling blood in the name of protecting them. It's a massive amount of guilt to lay on one character, but Gallagher liked muddying up a man with needy emotional baggage for once. Gallagher tells Variety, "I see it so often with scary or bad female characters that are scary or bad because they, as women, are obsessed with relationships or need love in some way. We don't see male characters, who are our bad guys, operating from a place of needing love." So I was enormously excited to develop a male character who is the root cause of our problems in this series, and all of his decisions and poor decisions that come from needing to be loved and needing people to need him. He just can't function without that. Lacy found Peter's layers of lies fascinating, not only as a study of narcissism, but also as the struggle of a compulsive liar trying to keep the charade of his life going after one self-induced tragedy after another. Lacy says he fully believes in his own existential innocence in each of these situations, and that lack of willingness to accept responsibility or accountability is really the most damning thing in the end. He can't see or hear another person's perspective outside of his own. I think it is what drives Marissa to kill him. There is no path forward with this person in their lives, and his reality and her reality are getting further and further apart from one another. Marissa does kill her husband in the final episode, not because she is just as cruel as he is, but because she has no other choice. She knows that telling the truth about why Carrie kidnapped Milo might get him taken away. But by not turning Peter in, she also becomes complicit in his opportunistic murder of Carrie, which he can dangle over Marissa should she try to leave him. With no other options, Marissa uses Peter's vulnerabilities against him, specifically his soy allergy. With just a touch of it on her lips from the hors d'oeuvres at Colin's funeral, she induces an allergic reaction, and, wouldn't you know, she happens only to have an expired EpiPen. In Mara's book, Peter's death is revealed in a newspaper clipping coda at the end of the story. But Gallagher couldn't bear to rob the audience and Marissa of the satisfaction of his downfall. She says it's too big of a moment to be off-screen. Marissa is the heart and soul of the series, and it's such a great way to end a book, with the newspaper clipping, which I absolutely love. But in a series, we want to see it, and we want to be with her during the decision-making. We know what's going to happen really before it happens, we just don't know how. That's the fun of it. You love this character so much after 8 episodes, and you know she's not an irrational person, or an evil or bad person. But she's still gonna do this thing, because her back is truly up against the wall. What is option B? There isn't one really. So it's about wanting to be with her, this relatable woman, doing this thing that feels bananas to us, but we think we might also do in her position. I couldn't bear to have it off screen. Right to the end, Peter fights not only the soy that is tightening his throat with each passing second, but also the loss of control that he so desperately clung to since he was a child, cleaning up his horrible mistakes. Lacy notes that Peter is still playing the diplomatic husband role, telling Marissa it's okay that she might have touched soy or forgotten his EpiPen. It's only in her quiet, unspoken glare directed at him as he suffocates that he realizes the trap he's fallen into. Lacy says Peter knows it's the end of the road. I mean, obviously, he's dying. But to the last breath, I think he is sure that he will find a way back. That the medics will show up and they'll put the paddles on and then he'll be back. I don't think that ego, or that belief in his own infallibility, ceases in the end or that he succumbs to any of it. He fights right to the end, and there is a fury in him at the person, who he believes he's done all of this for, who is now killing him. Those who read Mara's book prior to watching the series might feel like Lacy's Peter is even more unforgivably cruel, in part because of the additions Gallagher and her writers made to the story. The biggest change is the deepening of the Irvine siblings' story, specifically with the inclusion of Brian's disability. From a character perspective, Brian's need for support puts him in a place where he doesn't feel like he can reject Peter's constant, selfish supervision. Peter has trapped his sibling in a vicious cycle of need, one meant to foster some form of absolution for his secrets. Lacy says Peter's goal is to keep Brian on his feet. Whether that's an experimental surgery or pain meds or whatever it takes to keep him up and mobile, that's Peter's goal because that represents a kind of quote-unquote normalcy that somehow undoes the damage he's done to his brother. From a storytelling standpoint, Gallagher saw the necessary expansion of Mara's book as a unique and personal opportunity to represent the spectrum of disabilities. In addition to Brian's story, Michael Pena's Detective Alcaraz is working to place his son, who has severe learning disabilities, into a specialized school. Gallagher says, I had the space to develop the Irvine siblings a lot more, so putting that storyline there really tells us a lot about Peter and who he is and what he's capable of. But the deeper, emotional thing behind it all, especially when it comes to Michael Pena's storyline, is that I have a disabled child. It just seemed like this was the kind of story that allowed me to put 2 different kinds of disability on the screen. One being cognitive, which his son is grappling with, and, as a parent, dealing with how to navigate work and how to protect a child that is going to have needs for the rest of his life. And there's the disability of Brian, and just being to be really truthful about all of that in some meaningful way and try to capture it correctly. In other words, it came from my heart. Beyond representation, the deeply rendered stories of living with a disability provide just one more means of indicting Peter's character in the end. It's a different kind of villainy not only to blame his family for his actions, but then to use the prison of that guilt and shame to reap love from them at his discretion. It's all Peter knows, and that's why he's so desperate to hold on to it when Carrie finally confronts the family in the house in episode 8. For Lacy, Carrie's death, which unfolds off-screen in the book, is the moment that seals